Welcome to the Late Show. Boy, I don't need to tell you, we're in the middle of the cold and flu season. How many of you have either the colds or the flus right now? How many of you? Everybody has either the cold. I tell you, I was walking through Central Park today, and this is how bad it's gotten. I saw a squirrel in Central Park applying Vicks Vapo Rub to his nuts. That's right. You folks see the big Democratic presidential debates last night? You know what the debates are all about, don't you? The purpose of the debates, of course, is to narrow the field down to one man who can lose to George Bush. That's what they're trying to do. Have you heard about this? Presidential candidate Howard Dean now is being criticized for dodging the Vietnam draft. I was not aware of this. I did not know this about Howard Dean, but I do know now that he is presidential material. What can you do? Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge is on the program tonight. He's here to show us the proper way to duct tape a turkey. That's right. According to, I thought this was fascinating. And I'll ask Tom Ridge about this, why we can't get this Osama bin Laden. According to the Department of Defense now, he has shaved his head, Osama bin Laden, shaved his head and trimmed his beard. And this is kind of sad. Earlier today, Special Forces shot Ben Kingsley. Oh. It was a complete, it was a snafu. Yeah. Well, earlier today, President Bush pardoned the White House turkey. Ladies and gentlemen, pardoned the White House turkey. But first, the turkey had to contribute $100,000 to his re-election campaign, and then he said, take a hike, you're all done. Actually, President Bush did not pardon the turkey. He just couldn't find where it was hiding. That was the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our good friend Paul Schaefer. On the program tonight, we have Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge, ladies and gentlemen. This will be fascinating because we'll find out, are we secure? How secure are we? Will we be secure in the future? Are we more secure now than we used to be? Many, many important questions. And here's the guy who's responsible for our security. When you think about it, he's the Secretary of Homeland Security. There is nobody else more important to our security than this guy.
Buck stops with that cat.
Exactly right, Paul. Also on the program tonight, Puddle of Mud will be joining us. Puddle of Mud.
Great band.
Right there.
They sounded great in rehearsal.
And I want to know, are they a threat to our security?
Yes.
Is Puddle of Mud something we should be worried about? We'll ask the Secretary.
Are Puddle of Mud secure?
Exactly.
Ask him that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I am very disappointed and also quite excited because a couple of developments happened. We were supposed to have the beautiful Paris Hilton on the show. Now, if you don't know who Paris Hilton is, she's a lovely young woman who lives here in New York City, and she's heir to the Hilton Hotel fortune. And it's no secret, whenever I travel, I stay exclusively in Hilton hotels.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I've just stayed in Hilton hotels since I was a child. Really? It's something my parents taught me. Son, when you're on the road, Hilton hotels. I didn't argue, and it's paid off in huge dividends ever since. So the lovely Paris Hilton was supposed to be on the show tomorrow, and she canceled. And the reason she canceled, she hired a publicist, this no-good, beady-eyed weasel thug Putz. publicist got a hold of her and forced her to cancel her appearance on the show.
Oh, I hate that.
Now, this is a huge, huge career mistake for the beautiful Paris Hilton.
Of course it is.
All right, so now I've been all week for the last, actually, week and a half trying to get Paris to reconsider and come and be on the show. So I thought, here's what I'll do. I'll call the young woman up. I'll place a call, and I'll apologize. Although I really have nothing to apologize for it, because she's the one who hired this goon.
Yeah, right.
How can that possibly be my fault?
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yes, he's just a meddler, and he just wants to interfere and make trouble for people. I hate folks like that.
Ugh.
Leave well enough alone.
Please.
It's none of your business. Stay out of it. This is between me and Paris Hilton.
Yes.
We don't have her phone number. Oh. We called around, and we called this goon that she's retained, and I'm telling you, this guy really is lower than pond scum. This guy is, live bait. This guy is dead bait. He just couldn't be oilier, this guy,
Yeah.
Just as big a weasel as you'll ever see running around, and he's now her publicist, and so that's a bad sign. So we don't have her phone number. Now, the good news is we got a hold of a friend of hers, and we were able to convey the message through the friend that I would like to talk to her about being on the show and to apologize to her and to remind her that I always stay in the Hilton Hotel.
Yes.
And so her friend said, okay, she'll call you tonight. Ooh. So right after the show, I won't be able to stick around and chat with you, Paul.
I don't blame you.
Because I'll be racing upstairs to my office waiting for that phone call from Paris Hilton. And with any luck at all, she'll be on the show tomorrow for our big Thanksgiving holiday.
I got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, me too.
That would be fantastic.
Wouldn't it be great?
Paris Hilton. Now, do you think she'll... Wow. Now, do you think she'll... Will she call you on her cell phone? You think,
I don't care.
On a landline, on a hard line?
Doesn't make any difference to me. That's all I want to do is...
Maybe she'll two-way you. You know how the kids do now. They do this. What if she did that?
If I live to be 1,000, Paul, I'm not going to get that lucky. So anyway, that's my big night, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Something else. Here at CBS, we're very, very happy because... I don't know if you know this, there's a trend in television that people aren't watching anymore, like many of you folks in the audience tonight. And so everybody's trying to do different things to bring eyeballs back to the sets. Yeah. So CBS now is launching a promotional campaign that will attract new, younger viewers. For example, I was watching a promotional announcement for Judging Amy, the big hit show here on CBS. Watch how they've kind of spiced this up. Take a look.
This week on an all-new Judging Amy. Amy does some serious judging all up in here, throwing down hardcore judgments with her mad judging skills that are totally off the heezy. Ain't nobody judging like Amizel Faux Shizzle. Judging Amy, only on CBS.
Understand? You see what I'm talking about? Oh, golly, I enjoyed that one. And I'm very excited about the presidential campaign. It's really interesting because you have all of these 8 Democratic candidates, 8 or 9, more or less anonymous guys. We really don't know anything about them. And they all want to be the next president. And then they're worried about President Bush because his approval rating is so high. Can they be a factor? Can they get votes? We just don't know. It's still too early. But President Bush himself must be nervous about something, because he's already started his television campaign strategy.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, he's launched it now. And I was watching a George W. Bush campaign commercial. It's all about Richard Gebhardt. Take a look.
Representative Dick Gephardt wants to be your next president, but listen to some unsettling quotes made by the congressman in recent months. We should roll back the Bush tax cuts. Holy crap, would I make a god-awful president? You'd have to be on crack to vote for me. Man, do I love Osama bin Laden. Re-elect President Bush.
See? Isn't that peculiar?
Awesome. It's an understatement.
The sign of weakness.
Peculiar.
And here's a little segment we do from time to time. This is called George W. Bush Statesman, because the one thing that is required when you have that office, you have to be 24/7. And that means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, that's what that means?
You have to be 24/7 a statesman.
Yeah.
Here now, George W. Bush, statesman. Take a look.
Thank you very much.
Please be seated.
You see that? That's your statesman. That's your statesman right there.
All right.
Have we heard from Paris Hilton? Has she called? If she calls, let me know the second the phone rings, please.
You'll be the first to
because
know.
You understand the problem, Paul. She's hired this idiot.
Yeah.
And he's gotten in here and made trouble where everything was fine before, because prior to her hiring this goon, this stooge, this nitwit, this half-wit, this Neanderthal, this knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing moron, everything was fine.
Yeah, she was here, yeah.
That's right.
As good as her.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for a little something called Late Show Equations. Here we go.
Late Show Equations. Late Show Equations. Late Show Equations.
All right. It's going to be exciting. We've never done this before, Paul, and I want you to feel free to play along.
Oh, I'd love to play along.
Late Show Equations, and whether you think this is funny or not, it doesn't make any difference, but I do think you have to give us, I think you're going to have to give us points for presentation.
Okay.
Because this is a real craft project.
I can see you got a stack.
Yeah, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to it. It's Late Show. Oh, I can barely lift it. Oh, my God. All right. All right, here we go. This will be just a little sample one, Paul, and I want you to play along as well.
Okay.
You see French fries. You see the French fries right there?
Yes.
Plus gravy.
Yes.
Equals, take a look.
What is it? Delicious. Yes.
Delicious.
Yes. Now I understand the premise of this bit, yeah.
It's the Late Show Equation.
Late Show Equation.
A little like algebra.
Yes, it is.
A high school football team plus a multi-million-dollar stadium equals the New York Jets. That's how that works. All right. People who have heard of Dennis Kucinich minus Dennis Kucinich's family equals 0. Okay. All right, here we go. Liza Minnelli plus David Guest equals dozens of happy lawyers. There you go. Okay. 1 hour minus 5 minutes equals Hannicket Lens Crafters. Hannicket Lens Crafters, because they'll get your glasses in just about an hour.
Yeah, right. Minus 5 minutes.
Martha Stewart plus good behavior equals reduced sentence.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Paris Hilton, sex tape plus bottle of tequila equals my weekend plan. CBS plus millions of viewers equals NBC. King Henry VIII plus queer makeover equals Prince Charles. Ted Koppel plus hot air plus Cheetos equals Rush Limbaugh. Huh?
Cheetos.
I don't get the Cheetos.
I know.
All I have to do is open the window.
Okay.
I don't know anything about
no
Cheetos.
more responsibility.
No. And finally, monkey plus caffeine plus nice suit equals Regis.
Late Show Equation. Late Show Equation.
All right, we'll be right back with tonight's top 10 list, everybody. Before the show, our announcer, Alan Coulter, came to me and he said, Dave, if we have a minute on the program tonight, I have some thoughts that I've put together about Thanksgiving that I would like to share with the audience. And I said, well, what a lovely idea. So, ladies and gentlemen, here with some thoughts on Thanksgiving, our announcer, Alan Coulter. Alan?
Thank you, Dan. It was 1621, and after surviving a harsh first year in the New World, the Pilgrims were ready to celebrate with their Native American friends. The proud warrior Squanto had taught the English settlers how to grow corn or maize, and as thanks, he and his tribe were invited to take part in the bountiful feast. During dinner, Squanto found himself entranced by the comely form of Governor Winthrop's beautiful daughter, Constance. Their gazes met, and in unspoken agreement, they rose and rendezvoused in the dark, untamed forest. His bronzed, sinewy, well-oiled arms encircled her delicate waist. A moan escaped her lips as she felt his hot pagan breath on her alabaster neck. In his crude yet serviceable English, he whispered, "And you thought Plymouth Rock was hard."
All right, Alan. All right, that's enough. No, that's enough. Alan Coulter, ladies and gentlemen. If it wasn't Thanksgiving week, you'd be in big trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, here's tonight's top 10 list. Let's try that. The category tonight, top 10 reasons Paris Hilton should appear on The Late Show. She was supposed to be on the show. It was all set, and then at the last minute, she decided she didn't want to be on The Late Show. It's very rude. If you make a commitment to somebody, you have to honor that commitment. It's just that simple. If it weren't for that, society would crumble. Society would crumble. Yeah. So she owes me either an apology or to make good on her commitment to be on the show. Hey, I'm not going to chase her around the theater with a hammer. What's the problem, I say?
I say that, too. I'm sure she'll be pleased to know that you're not going to chase her around the theater with a hammer. That'll...
Top 10 reasons Paris Hilton should be on The Late Show. That's the one you're watching right now. Number 10, chance to show America what she looks like with her clothes on. Number 9, if she had a talk show, I'd be a guest on that one. Number 8, it's time Paris Hilton got some publicity. Number 7, if she doesn't, what kind of message is that sending to the kids? See, exactly my point. Number 6, promise to ignore scandal and focus on other things she's done, like... Number 5, Paul once swiped some towels from a Hilton hotel and wants to return them. Number 4, 6 words, hot pockets in the green room. Number 3, she fine. And number 2, don't show up and my debutante friends will freeze you out of high society. And the number 1 reason Paris Hilton should appear on the show, if she wants, she can see me naked. We'll be right back with Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge, everybody. We're going to find out, are we secure? How secure are we? It's just that simple. We have the man right here. As Secretary of Homeland Security, our first guest is entrusted with the protection and safekeeping of this great land of ours. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Secretary Tom Ridge. Tom? You're one of the, right after the attacks on 9/11, you were one of the first names that we did not know heretofore generally, unless we lived in Pennsylvania. And now everybody knows all about you. And an organization was commissioned, and it's now a cabinet-level position. You're a secretary. Right. And tell us now the responsibility of the Homeland Security Department.
Well, we have 180,000 men and women that go to work every day to not only define a national effort, but to lead a national effort with our friends in the state, with the friends at the local government, with folks in the private sector, so we can prevent terrorist attacks, reduce our vulnerability to terrorist attacks, and do whatever we can to prepare for the unlikely but possible event that attack might occur.
And this now incorporates agencies that heretofore operated with some autonomy, is that correct?
Well, there are about 22 different units that the President thought we ought to pull together,
right.
180,000 strong, as I mentioned. But one of the interesting things about the mission for the department is the President realized from the very early stages we were putting the department together, you can't secure the country from Washington, D.C. You really have to have partnerships with the governors and the mayors. You have to use the 650 policemen that walk the beat, patrol the streets. You need the first responders at the local level, and we need partners in the private sector and the academic community. So while we work the borders, we work airports, we have people stationed overseas, we also work pretty hard with our friends at the state and local level because we have this notion that the homeland will be secure when the hometown's secure.
And your agency now, it does, the CIA answers to you, the FBI answers to you, is that correct, or am I mistaken about that?
Well, we are a member of the intelligence community. We work very closely with the CIA and the FBI. We can go back and ask them to task them to get information about certain events that may affect domestic interest, but we do not and are not and will not be a collection agency ourselves.
I see.
We don't collect information on citizens, but we can task the intelligence community. We can ask them questions, expect some answers, and then use it to protect the country.
And this is all part of the Patriot Act? Am I correct about that?
This is separate and apart from the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act basically was a group of measures that previously had been used by the law enforcement community to attack crime, and the Patriot Act, by and large, gave the law enforcement community the same powers to fight terrorism.
In the beginning, after the attack downtown and also the attack in Washington, D.C., people began to be suspicious that maybe our security had failed us, that there was some kind of a breach, that there was not communication between one agency and another, and I guess after investigation, what we've come to accept now, it was not so much a failing of intelligence as it was just a failing of the human mind to fathom a possibility like this. Now, if that's the case, are we fathoming things that might happen in the future? Has our imagination gotten better? Do we now consider other possibilities that heretofore were unlikely?
Unfortunately, we do every single day. I mean, the expression that a lot of people used right after 9/11 was a failure to connect the dots. But in fact, it's a lot easier to connect the dots after you've seen the end of the puzzle.
Right.
But the bottom line is that every single day, within the department, within the CIA, FBI, the entire intelligence community, we take a look at all possible scenarios. And unfortunately, we train some people, we use some people to think like terrorists.
Right.
What would they do under certain sets of circumstances, and then we prepare accordingly.
Are we more secure? Can you document the fact that Americans within our borders are now more secure than they were 2 years ago?
David, I would say to you that we have gotten better prepared and risen to a different level and a higher level of readiness every single day since September 11, 2001. With the extraordinary success of the military overseas, we know we've really dismantled their leadership. With our allies across the country, across the world, we've frozen about $200 million of their assets. We've really disrupted their communication plan. We have really made it very difficult for them to operate. We've had allies that actually have apprehended about 3,000 terrorists. So between what we've done and what our allies around the world have done, we get more information about the terrorists, who they are, how they operate, and where they might operate. You take that information and then you use the Department of Homeland Security to do what we do at the national level, but our job is to share some of that information down at the local level. We've got a great example here of what they've done in New York since September 11th. They've done a phenomenal job in this city with Commissioner Kelly and Mayor Bloomberg and Governor Pataki. I don't think there's a better city that's better protected and better organized and better prepared than New York City.
Let me ask you about that. People are concerned about a nuclear generating power plant just up the Hudson, Indian Point. And I drive by there whenever I come in and out of the city, and I do often think to myself, if you wanted to, you could fly a plane right into this thing. Now, has that been considered? Are we secure from that possibility? Not only at Indian Point, but nuclear sites all over.
Well, we do use nuclear energy around the country. I think it provides about 20 or 30% of our energy. But the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has gone back in a post-9/11 world and has taken a look at all possible threats from the air and from land, and we've begun to change security measures at every facility. So we're constantly testing ourselves as to whether or not this or that scenario could result in a catastrophic.
Okay, and let's apply that scenario just to the one up the Hudson like that. Is it secure? Are we safe, or is it just you saying that we're safe and hoping that nothing will happen?
I'm saying that you can never in this world, nor should anyone ever guarantee that under all sets of circumstances, under any and all occasions, that you'll be absolutely safe. But the measures that they've taken in the nuclear facilities and measures that we are taking in other areas that are very, very important to us, if they were destroyed, would result in a catastrophic loss of life. Every single day they're tested. We look at those security procedures. And is it possible? Anything's possible. Is it probable given the circumstances that we know? No, it's not probable, but it is possible. We have to deal with a possibility, but I think the notion that flying an airplane into a nuclear site would result in this massive nuclear disaster, I think it's pretty far-fetched.
Pretty far-fetched, but again, going back to what we were talking about with the original 9/11, prior to that, that was pretty far-fetched too, wasn't it?
Well, Dave, I mean, here it's a matter of science, Dave. I mean, here it's a matter of science because each nuclear plant, most of the nuclear plants have a different configuration. Where they store and house their nuclear materials are different. And again, it is the configuration of the design of the plant, certain circumstances about the airplane, where it strikes. There are just many factors that have to, it's like the perfect storm. Many factors have to take place. And even if they did, you wouldn't have the kind of nuclear holocaust that people are worried about.
Well, that is what people are worried about, because they think of a plane flying into that reactor, and you're telling me that that in and of itself would not be the widespread devastation
That's
that people fear. Okay. What about the college kid who was putting box cutters and fake bombs on airplanes and stuff like that? Well, and I guess it was fairly widespread.
Oh, very widespread. Yeah. We certainly
didn't.
We didn't stand up and applaud when it happened because. But any failure of our system, whether it's through an authorized test or an unauthorized test, and by the way, we conduct covert tests at the borders, at the airports. We do that ourselves, but it pointed out a deficiency, a communications problem, and our first job was to correct it, which we've done.
So as a result of this kid's prank or crime, you have changed certain procedures?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first thing we needed to do, remember the email? And there was a problem was to, first of all, folks looked at it. It didn't, the folks that were looking at it, and we get thousands and thousands of emails, literally every day, and you have to make a determination as to whether or not you want to follow them up. Looked at it, the threat wasn't imminent, and frankly, there was a breakdown in the communication change. Our job is to fix it. It will never be a fail-safe system, but when we see a problem, see a deficiency, I think your audience and everybody around America said, all right, don't let it happen again.
Yeah. Do commercial airline pilots now carry guns? They do not carry guns. Will they carry guns?
Well, you asked good question early on about being safer from, I think, the curbside to the cockpit. We're much safer. That is one of several layers of defense in passenger aviation that we put in place in the past year. I don't know. I suspect a lot of your audience is going home to see their parents or their grandkids and the like, but they ought to know that the baggage screeners are better trained. They've got technology at every airport. You've got federal air marshals on literally thousands and thousands of flights a week. Every commercial airliner's cockpit door has been hardened, and we're beginning to train pilots who want to, with special firearms training, to be of assistance if somebody tries to break into the cockpit.
So traveling this week, the busiest travel week of the year, Americans are safe?
Well, they're safe. There's going to be a little inconvenience. Right. We're trying to do everything we can to keep the inconvenience at a minimum, but we're not going to compromise their safety. And I'm just going to ask America to understand safety first. There's a couple things we're going to ask them to do, David, if you don't mind. There are 3 things we think can save about 3 minutes. If you multiply that, couple 100,000 travelers will save a lot of time. Take all anything that's metal, take it out and put it in that plastic dish. If you got a computer, take it out of the case. And if you're wearing a coat, traveling to a colder climate, take the coat off. If you do those 3 things, we'll help expedite.
Right.
We're not going to compromise safety.
Or just stay at home. That would be number 4. We'll be right back with Tom Ridge. Tom Ridge is here. And I'm sure you know people like this. I work with people, and I know people who on a regular basis have to travel around Manhattan and still are unnerved by going into the subway. And I say to them, what is your concern? I said it seems unlikely that an attack like this will ever take place again, not only in this country, but anywhere in the world, hopefully. And they say that they're concerned about suicide bombers because they're so prevalent in other parts of the globe. Are they coming here? Is that our next fear? Is that going to happen in this country?
Well, I think as we work particularly with big city police, small city police, dealing with that possibility of an attack with a suicide bomber is in the world, in a post-9/11 world, when we see everything that's going around in the world today, we'd be foolish if we didn't do whatever we could to take action to prevent that from happening. I think that's one of the reasons that the tip of the spear is to deal with terrorists before they get here. Just about everything we're doing, much of what we're doing in Homeland Security is try to put our perimeter out further and further and further. Any soldier would know that you'd like to get your defense perimeter out so that ultimately our borders become the last line of defense, not the first line of defense. So, I mean, we have to deal with the reality that there have been attacks in the past. There was one in Japan, the sarin gas attack in a subway, a possible attack with multiple vehicles, as we've seen in Riyadh and in Istanbul and other places. Suicide bombers, tragically and unfortunately, we witness that too often, the reports on television. So there's this whole range of concerns that we have. But I think what we want Americans to understand, you don't just have the Department of Homeland Security, and we got 180,000 people working it hard every day. But you got your state police, and you've got your local police, and you've got the firefighters and the emergency service people. The intelligence committee is locked in stronger than they've ever been locked in before. We're working with the private sector, whether it's nuclear plants, chemical plants, energy plants, telecommunications nodes, bridges, tunnels. I mean, all this is in play, and every single day it's our job to get to a higher level of security. And I think we still have more to do. I mean, obviously, we got this. Part of our vision for airport security, I'd love so one of these days that none of these folks have to take their shoes off. And we're not there yet, but that's one of our goals.
So let me just capsulize this. You're saying now that the concern about suicide bombings in this country is not likely? It's
no,
a concern,
I mean,
but not likely.
You can't, I'm not going to categorize it likely or unlikely. It is a tactic that terrorists have used before. And there's no reason for us to think we should be immune or will be immune from a similar kind of attack. That is, again, one of the reasons that we are trying to project ourselves with our military, with our CIA and our allies to try to disrupt the terrorists before they get here, disrupt their financing, and frankly eliminate as many of them as we possibly can before they come across our borders.
What about the guy? Sure. What about the anthrax mailings? Is that case just cold dead now, or do we know who did this? Are we going to get the people?
Well, I think we'll get. There is a murderer or murderers out there. Killed several people in several different communities, and right now much of the work and the investigation is a very slow, cumbersome, comprehensive scientific analysis of the anthrax. There was enough of it that was saved. You still have literally hundreds of agents that are working it, but right now much of the research and much of the work is being done in laboratories. And it's a very slow process. We've never had to try to figure out the qualities, particular qualities of the anthrax and then draw some conclusions from it. But we're working it every day.
You're confident that this
yes,
person or people will be apprehended?
Several people are going to bring to justice. This country needs to bring to justice. You don't necessarily start with him, but you can include Saddam, Osama bin Laden, and a few others like him.
When we hear a lot of chatter, there's increased chatter, what does that mean exactly?
That means, it's a great question because everybody throws it around, but frankly that just means that in the intelligence community, that's not just the folks in the Department of Defense or the CIA or elsewhere, but our friends, and we have many allies that are sharing information with us. There's a higher volume of intercepts or information that's talking about, in general terms, terrorist attacks. And you see it. You can map it. We map it. And recently, there seems to be a higher volume, not with any great specificity, but they're always talking about targeting America, the great evil, the great Satan.
And how much of that is authentic, and how much of it is just guys just yakking?
Well, that's it's a great question. It's one of the toughest jobs in the business. Some sources, because you've dealt with them before and you've been able to determine they were credible, you pay a lot of attention to. Others you try to corroborate. This is the first time the source has said this. There are other ways we can corroborate him, or there are other pieces of information that sound very similar so that it's true, or maybe he just had a cup of coffee with him in a cafe and they're repeating the same thing. So it's a tough business, but we take every initial threat seriously. and then reject them down the road based on credibility or cooperation.
Will you stay with George Bush if he is reelected? Is it your desire to continue in this capacity?
Well, I'm going to, first of all, I think that's the right outcome. I want George Bush to be reelected. I think he should be reelected. And then every president should have the right, and we'll be discussing with his cabinet whether or not I'll continue on service. And I'm going to have that conversation with him, and depending on the outcome, maybe he'll invite me back.
Okay. Can you get me Paris Hilton's phone number? Mr. Secretary, pleasure meeting you. Keep up the good work. Secretary Tom Ridge, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Puddle of Mud.
It's time for a VCR alert. Take note. On Tuesday's episode of The Late Show, Dave will welcome Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge. It's an episode you won't want to miss, so set your VCR. This has been a VCR alert. Tell your friends.
I don't know about you, Paul, but I feel much more secure now.
Me too.
Oh, good.
Very secure.
Our next guests sold more than 5 million copies. 5 million copies of their debut album and their sophomore CD. Oh, the sophomore CD.
Ooh.
Yeah. Is entitled Life on Display, is in stores today, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Puddle of Mud.
Now just sitting here by myself, and I think you found someone.
you guys last night. We'll be right back. Thank you very much. I'm fine now. I'm fine. You see, I'm fine now.
Yeah.
Earlier in the evening, I was a little jumpy.
Word.
I'm fine now.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Everything seems okay now.
Oh, good.
I think I was feeling at the beginning of the show a little insecure. Now I feel great.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Give Paris my love.
I will. I have to run right up and get that call now. My thanks to Puddle of Mud. How about those guys, huh?
They rock. That's right.
And Secretary of Home